What is going on, YouTube? In today's video we are talking about why the 392 Hemi intake manifold is the worst when it comes to adding forced induction. All that and more coming up. But as you can see, we've got a little bit of a side project going on. Travis did too many sick jumps on his bike, so we have to go to Walmart, pick up a new tube so that he can continue doing sick jumps on his bike. So there's a couple of issues with the 392 intake manifold that was brought to my attention. I already knew that they had what is called intake runner flaps that regulates the air intake going into the cylinder, and it's something that shows up on dynographs. RT Life pointed out in one of his older videos that the dynograph does actually dip off towards like the 3/4 mark of the power band, and he says that you can tune it out, but that's still kind of an issue because it drops off completely. I was able to find a couple pictures with a 392 intake manifold cut open so you could see the valves, but what winds up happening is under boost those valves force themselves closed, or the boost forces the valves closed, causing a whole bunch of tuning issues and nightmares, on top of the fact the motor that controls those valves might not be powerful enough to work against the high boost levels. Also, in addition to that, the factory throttle body has issues holding itself open under high boost conditions. Even if you go with an upgraded ported and polished throttle body or like a larger diameter or something like that, even the Hellcat one, I've been told, will close or will fail and actually shut during wide open throttle or full boost conditions. Something else I forgot to mention is it's a plastic intake manifold, which means if you run too much boost, you are going to blow a hole through it. So there's a couple instances of high boost going through those 392 intake manifolds where it just blows the top right off. Luckily, there's a pretty simple solution to that intake manifold problem, and that is the Holley Sniper Race intake manifold. It's a sheet metal manifold. It's made out of, I think, 6mm sheet metal, and basically it's just way more structurally sound than that plastic 392 intake manifold. So we've talked about the issue with the manifold exploding. We've talked about the issue with the intake, the variable intake runner flaps forcing themselves closed, or the boost forcing them closed, and we've talked about the throttle body getting forced closed as well. With all those little issues being addressed, the solution for the throttle body is the Kong series of throttle bodies. They use metal gearing as well as high torque gearing and motors to ensure that that throttle body flap stays open when you want it to. Trav's bike only took me, what, like 20 minutes to fix? So here's the factory intake manifold. You got your fuel rails, your crossover pipe. This is the motor that actually controls the intake flaps that run down the center of the intake manifold. There's the pressure sensor, the manifold pressure sensor, that tells the computer how much pressure or vacuum that's inside of the intake manifold itself. And then you've got your factory fuel injectors and your PCV stuff. Before I get into what exactly comes with the Sniper Race intake manifold, I wanted to take a second to let you guys know that we have a merch store available. There's t-shirts, hoodies, stickers, or like maybe one of each, women's, men's t-shirts. It's available in the store section. It's through Teespring. All you do is put in your order and they ship directly to you. No need to worry about me getting stuff in the mail. Teespring just deals with all of that for you, and as soon as I get something, I'll show you guys some quality, and yeah, head over to that merch store so you can get yourself a sweet shirt or a hoodie. My ADD brain is all over the place. Here's your factory throttle body. This one's kind of dirty from being on the vehicle for 15,000 miles or something like that. Basically it sits on the intake. This is the intake side, and then the throttle body itself opens and closes depending on how much throttle you're requesting from the throttle pedal. And then so what winds up happening is when this is open, and there's boost running through the engine, the boost will actually catch on this flap and force it closed. Not good. So we replaced this with the Kong 108 series throttle body for the Gen 3 Hemis, and it is a plug and play. As far as the Holley Sniper Race intake manifold goes, you get the manifold with high runners or tall intake runner length. There's more volume. It's a sheet metal style intake manifold. There are no runner flaps in it that can get shut forcefully through boost, and there's no internal moving components that can fail. The only problem with that is it's a 90mm intake port, and the throttle body is a 108, so we're gonna actually be fabricating a piece of billet aluminum to adapt the 108mm throttle body to the 90mm intake manifold. And with that manifold you also get fuel rails, and I believe it's number 8AN line fittings for those fuel rails, the braided crossover pipe, so that you can get the fuel from one side of the manifold to the other, and some gaskets and hardware to install it. The only thing it doesn't come with is the fitting to go to the quick disconnect for the Jeep SRT or any of the 392 applications, and it doesn't come with the fuel injectors, so you can either use high flow fuel injectors or you can retain your factory fuel injectors, as long as you're not planning on turning up the duty cycle or tuning those fuel injectors to be maxed out. The other cool part about that intake manifold with the high flow fuel rails is that it sets you up to be able to install a return system, which it is currently a returnless system, so the fuel goes to the fuel rails and then is consumed versus going to the fuel rails and then whatever's not consumed going back to the fuel tank. So your intake manifold and fuel rail system will be set up for a return system, so you can run E85 high flow fuel injectors. You can run dual or triple pumps in the tank, which is a whole nother story altogether. That about wraps up all the things involved with the intake manifold and the 392. As per usual, ladies and gentlemen, if you like this type of content, be sure to smash that like button, turn it blue, do the channel a huge favor, check out the merch store, smash the subscribe button, and if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave those in the comment section below. But until next week's video, guys, I'm out of here. Later.
Ha 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 ha!